And this is what I always encourage people to find out. May it be a student or even a professional, find your voice, your musical self. Find what is your special gift, because everybody has a different gift in detail.
Hello, Stephanie. How are you doing today?
Hello, Victoria. Nice to see you. I'm fine. And how are you doing?
I am good. It's very nice for you to reach out and tell me about your work. Talking Harp, this year, we're fourth year into our project, and some of you might have noticed that I have kind of slowed down in the video taping because partly my work has gone really busy, but I also really wanted to make room for myself to play and connect with my instruments. So when I find out that you're a big advocate of play and really just enjoying music without a big purpose, that really resonated with me. And I thought it would be really cool to feature you in our birthday month and also talk about your work. So thank you very much for coming to Talking Harps. And before we get into all the good stuff, tell us about your music journey. How did the harp come into your life?
Ah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. It's a really a great pleasure for me to be here, and I'm quite excited. um, yeah, my musical journey started very early. When I was a tiny child, my mother used to sing a lot with me and for me. I think she sang for me from the very beginning on. And then finally, I discovered at the age of 5, maybe a recorder in a drawer, and I experimented with it, and it was pure joy for me to play around with sounds. With everything that sounded, may it be pots or empty washing. How do you call these? You know, these paper.
Kind of like washing bins.
Yeah, and with my clubs, I played the drums and so on. And then, and then the first thing happened that made not the best impact, I would say, and that was I had to go to a teacher because my parents thought she needs support and she needs to be pushed. And I had to read sheet music before I went to school, so I could read music before I read I read language. And that was the first time that I lost joy.
Mm.
And so I decided to switch instruments at the age of 8. And I wanted to learn the guitar. And I had a fabulous teacher who was excited about folk and the singer-songwriter period of Simon and Garfunkel and Bob Dylan and so on. And so he taught me to accompany all these songs and sing along. And I had a lot of fun with that. But after a couple of years, he said, "Oh, you are too good. I cannot teach you anything else. You should go to another teacher." And then it became a struggle once more. And I had to play classical guitar on my left. I had to practice to go through all the positions, and it was no fun anymore. I had to play
Mm.
boring pieces that I didn't like, no more singing of Simon Garfunkel songs. And so I decided to switch instrument again, and I learned the flute, um, the real flute. And yeah, and that was at the age of 14, I think. And then I became aware that I have probably a musical talent, and I was doing a bit better than my classmates. And so I thought about how about studying music. And then I started to really prepare myself to study music, and that's quite hard because you have to pass a test to get to the Musikhochschule, how we call it here in Germany. But I really wanted to do that, and so I struggled hard, and I learned piano extra for that. And at the university, it was really the joy was completely left. It was only struggle. It was only comparison. It was we didn't have contact much musically spoken. I mean, we met for a coffee, but basically we were against each other because there are only few places in the orchestra, and there was this attitude that you only have made it when you get a place in the orchestra. And you had to play for, let's say, 2 or 3 minutes in the auditions, and there were 150 other flutists, or maybe at least 80. And it was no joy because it was all about perfectionism. It was all about functioning. It was all about playing in a certain way, which was expected. You had to guess which style the orchestra wants you to play. You always had to fulfill the expectations of your teacher. At least that's what I felt. And the teachers that I had were sometimes not really supportive. They more or less always pointed out what was not working, and that you had to work harder and that you had to struggle more, you know. And so when I finished my studies at the age of 28, I found myself not playing, not unpacking my flute unless for teaching. And after 1 year, I thought, oh, time for switching instrument.
I can see that coming.
And I went to a class, a workshop that was called instrument translation, something like speaking with sounds. It was an improvising workshop for flute players, and I didn't improvise. I mean, I haven't improvised since I have been maybe 5 years old. That was the last time before I started to learn how to read notes. And that from then on, I only was reading music. And I thought improvising is something that I cannot do. I didn't believe it. And yeah, and then I came to this workshop, and it was so funny because we were sitting in a circle on these little meditation cushions, you know? And I thought, oh my God, this is a weird atmosphere. It's very holy. Uh, it's like a religion or something like that. I was very skeptical about it, but then I paid for it, and so I stayed. And after that weekend, I somehow had the first contact, conscious contact to what improvisation might be. That it has to be something to do with my inner musical world and imagination and expressiveness. And then we were told to look for our inner sound, our core sound. And somehow I couldn't find it during that weekend. But then after that, it was the Tuesday after that, I can remember that exactly. I heard coincidentally in the radio one of the very old pieces by Lorena McKennitt, and she was only singing and playing the harp.
She's a Canadian.
Yes.
So proud to have her as a Canadian.
And then I heard this harp, and I mean, she's not very virtuous on the harp, but it was the sound of the harp, and I immediately thought, this is my inner sound. And then I picked up the phone and I called the harp teacher from the music Hochschule that I knew. And I asked her, listen, I want to learn, I want to play the Celtic harp now. Where can I rent one? I was 29. And she said, why do you want to learn the harp now? You are much too old. And then I said, okay, do you have the telephone number of a funeral office maybe? Then if I'm too old, maybe it's a good idea to look for a place for my grave or something like that. Anyway, I rented a harp. It was not the best harp that you can get, but it was a harp. And it was in October, and I had the plan to surprise my parents for Christmas with this new instrument. And I taught myself how to accompany Silent Night with that. And that was what I was playing on Christmas Eve. And this is how the harp came to my life. And then after maybe 3 months of harp playing, I was asked if I could play in a meditation service in the church. They knew me as a flute player, and of course they wanted me to play the flute, and they wanted to have an opening music and a final music, and in the middle for a meditation where they wanted to have pictures on the wall, projected to the wall. They wanted to have something silent for meditation, meditative music. And I said, oh, I have an idea. I could bring my harp for that.
Hmm.
I played exactly that. I played fifth. That was it. And after that service, people came to me and they said, oh, wow, the sound of the harp. It was so touching, and I had goosebumps, and I felt so relaxed. And they didn't say a word about my flute playing.
So it was a
And
good thing that you brought the harp too, not just the flute.
yeah, and then it came to my mind, oh, wait a minute, maybe it's not about me, because on the flute I really could show all my skills. I mean, I'm a professional flute player, you know? So I'm a very skilled flute player. And I played a Bach sonata, which is not too easy, I would say. But nobody was interested in that. Nobody was interested in seeing my skills. And that was new for my mind because I always thought for a professional musician, you should show all your skills
Mhm.
to prove that you have deserved to get some money for what you do, you know? So the money gives a lot of pressure as well. Not only the name, the label professional music, but professional musician means you are getting paid. And if you are getting paid, you have to deserve it. You have to be good enough, you know? And this experience proved the opposite because I was not at all good at the harp. I wouldn't ever say that I was a professional harp player in terms of having professional skills. But the instrument itself, the sound of the instrument was the thing that counted for the people, not what I was able to do, but what the instrument was able to bring. And I was only there to make the instrument ring. That was my task, no more, nothing. As it was not about me. It was about the sound of the harp. And that was the first time that I realized I was switching direction somehow. And I realized that the original plan that I had when I started to learn the harp was I promised myself I will do it only for myself. I will never share it to not get into the same trap again. And now I thought, oh, okay, I have to change my opinion because the people want to listen to the harp. I cannot keep it for myself. I am responsible to give them the opportunity to have this experience of the harp sound touching their hearts. And this was what from that moment on, and that was early in my harp career, if you want to call it that, what happened. So this was my journey. And then, um, yeah, and then of course, I had to develop some more skills on the harp because you cannot go through the harp life only with fifths. And I started to practice this and that. And I knew how to practice, of course, because I mean, I have studied music, so I knew how to practice. It's basically the same on any instrument. And I watched people, what they were doing on the harp, people that were doing things that interested me. So I try to find out what they are doing and how they are doing, and I explored basically all the technique myself, and this is maybe why I have a bit of an unusual technique because I explored it. I didn't have a lot of lessons. I had a few lessons, but the teacher that I had, or the two teachers that were, they were. They were only for classical harp, and they taught me this classical technique, which didn't work on my tiny harp because it had less string tension. And if I played with the classical technique, it wouldn't sound beautiful. So I experimented how to play on the harp that I had so that it sounded the best it could sound. And this is what I have been doing since with any harp that came to my hands. And this is why some people were a bit disappointed when, I mean, I even had this tiny harp.
It's cute. What harp is
It's
that?
a
Is a Latin?
string Derwent harp. And to be honest, these harps, well, I mean, they are tiny. What do you expect them to sound like? And but I experimented with it and I found a way to make this tiny harp sound as good as possible. And many people bought a harp because they heard my videos on YouTube with this harp.
Mhm.
And then they try to adjust or to put their technique to that harp, and that doesn't work. Then the harp doesn't sound beautiful, not at all.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then they were disappointed and thought they had a bad harp. And as soon as I took their harp, it sounded much better because I knew how to handle that instrument. And this is something that I would say whenever I'm asked which harp I prefer, of course I can say I love my dusty strings and
Me
I
too.
love my Weisgerber Kairos double strung, and I like my Stony End double strung a lot, and I like all my harps, but there is there are not many harps that are not able to sound somehow okay or even very beautiful. You always have to adjust yourself to the instrument and not
Mhm.
the other way around because you serve the instrument and not, you know.
Yeah. I feel like you
Many
have
people would
learned a
say the
lot.
instrument has to serve your needs, but I think it's the other way around.
I
Hmm.
think so. I feel like you have learned a lot from your instruments.
Yes,
It's like every instrument has taught you either something about yourself or what you want with music. Or in
yes,
the case of the harp, like, you heard someone play the harp, which intrigued you, and then you realize when you bring the harp to someone else that they are also equally intrigued by the instrument. So you feel like you have now the obligation to share this music with others in a meaningful
yeah.
way. That's really awesome. And
By the way, do you have the same
we have
harp?
exactly the same. I have a crescendo. I think yours is the
Hello,
crescendo
mine
as
is
well.
an
Is it?
FH
Ah,
76.
FH. It looks very much the same because
Yeah,
we have this part is the part that tells me I have a dusty string. When I see a harp, this
exactly.
is a very dusty string thing. I have tried one of those when I went to the dusty string store and I absolutely loved it.
Yes, yes.
So if I ever get an upgrade, I'll be changing to the one you have.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And
Um,
and how wonderful that you realize that we need to serve the instrument. So I
yeah,
agree with you. Not all harps are made the same. Not all harps can be handled the same.
yeah,
So what
exactly.
an incredible story. So you are now the second, maybe even more. I have actually a lot of musicians have told me that they have lost the joy of playing because of the pressure on them to perform, to be perfect, and they're always being compared with other people, right? How have you now, after going through all of that, how have that changed your relationship? We already heard some of that in your
Mhm.
conversation with your instrument, and when you finally find a way to find joy, and I'm going to assume that when you realize other people are enjoying your music, how do you take that and make it into what you do now? Like, how does that translate to the musician you are these days?
Um, it started with, it started with this workshop that I told you about on the flute. But then I met a man who originates from the USA, from Colorado, and he moved to Frankfurt in Germany. And he contacted me because he wanted to learn to play the harp and he wanted to accompany himself while telling stories. And he wrote these stories by himself. And so we met and I showed him some things. And then he wrote a story about the student that has been had her lesson before right before him, and it was a trial lesson, and she was only 5 or 6 years old. She was a little girl, and when I opened the door for her, she said, "But you are not a real harp player." And by that time, I had very short hair. No, I have long hair now. I probably would be a real harp player. Anyway, I asked her why she thought that I'm not a real harp player. And she said, because you don't have long hair. And I thought, I think she's not going to be my student.
I think so too.
I mean, it didn't fit. But I told him about that experience. And then he wrote a story about why harp players have short hair. I won't tell
Oh,
you the story now. I mean, who wants to read the story can contact me. It's in one of my books in the Pieces from the Other World, Part One, and I have an English translation of the story as well. So and in the story, then there is a harp, of course, and there's a lady, Corinne, one of the first women on Earth, and she had wonderful long hair. And then it's going to be told why she had to cut her hair, and it's a bit sad, but it has a happy end. And then there is a song about her the pity of the loss of her hair, and but at the same the comfort that she gets in the end, and that her hair as well gets. And he described this song. And when I read the story, I mean, I was crying because it was so touching because he wrote a story about me. And I immediately had an idea how this music should sound. And I sat down at my harp and started playing the song. And it never left me again. So I didn't even have to write it down because I could remember it the next day. And that was the initial moment when I discovered that I have a gift of, if somebody describes something very poetically, very imaginative, that I have the gift to hear music with that and bring it to the harp. And that was the start of my creative journey, not the recreative journey where I only read something that other people have created and let it's like reading a book, you know? You can take a book and you can read it out loud, and if it's a good book, then everybody is happy to listen. And if you are a good reader, then the more they are happy to listen, or they go to the theater, and people enjoy watching theater plays from Shakespeare or Goethe or Schiller or whoever. But I discovered that I can tell something through music without reading. And that I even then, after a while, I mean, after a couple of years, I started to not plan what I'm going to play when he is telling the stories. We worked together quite a while. But I decided to take the risk to see if the music comes to me while he is playing on stage. It was a
Ah,
bit risky because I
very
didn't know,
bold.
but it worked. I never had the experience that nothing came. I mean, sometimes it was not brilliant, but something happened all the time. And if it was only, this is sound, that's enough.
Hmm.
You don't have to practice hard to do that. And um, And that was so freeing because as soon as I discovered something is happening all the time, something is coming to my fingers all the time, I knew that was the end of failure. Because if you don't have a goal or an objective, this, I have to play exactly this because this is the plan.
Mhm.
Then you can fail because I mean, you can play something different, which maybe doesn't sound as well as the thing that you planned. But if you don't have a plan, then there is no right or wrong. There is just something that can happen. And
Mhm.
maybe it sounds more or less fitting into the story or to the situation, but it won't be wrong because you cannot define what is right or wrong.
You
There is no
changed the
right.
goalpost. So instead of saying, I have to play it exactly like this, you said,
Yes.
I just need to play something that fits the
I
moment.
am here. I show up. That's
Ah.
basically the idea. I mean, if you want to really understand what I'm talking about, then read this book. And I hope this is okay to
Yeah,
show this.
of course,
Not
sure.
mine. It's pretty new and it's written by a French lady who's living in London. And I highly recommend to read this book because you can transpose it to everything that I'm doing while I'm teaching and while I'm playing myself. It's about experimenting. It's about
Mhm.
discovering things. It's about being curious. It's about exploring. It's about finding out things instead of aiming at things. It's much more open-minded. It's much more this explorer.
Yes, you're opening to exploration. You're opening to the
Exactly.
possibility of trying things
Yes.
that you might not even know
Yes.
exist, which
Yes.
is
And you
wonderful.
discover things that you wouldn't have discovered if you only stick to your notes. I mean, please buy my sheet music, but don't stick to it. Use it as something like a maybe a treasure chest with material inside, or like a box with little building blocks, And
Mhm.
of course, in every piece that I have written, I have put building blocks together to this certain piece. But you could deconstruct any piece and not only my pieces. I mean, I give permission to do that, and I encourage to do that. But I would say you also could deconstruct a piece by Mozart or a piece by Bach and see what are the elements which this cons the consisting the piece consists of tiny elements that are put together in a certain way, and this the great composers, they had a very high gift to do that in an ingenious way, but I think that everybody who has a slight tiny gift for music, and I believe that almost every human being has that, then you can play around with these building blocks and experiment with them like little children. They don't build skyscrapers, they build tiny little houses with their wooden blocks, but they experiment with it. And sometimes it breaks together, it breaks down, and then they rebuild it and they invent new things and they have imaginations and so on. And this is the way how I approach music nowadays. And it's not about complexity. It can be. sometimes complexity is really fascinating for me, especially rhythmic complexity. I like to experiment with polyrhythmic
You
structures,
do.
especially on the double strung harp. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, it can be as easy as something like, so this is only two chords, and then I fill the gap. And this, I could do that for hours. And I think everybody who would listen to that or would hear that would feel this, this relaxation which is inside this tiny idea. And it's what I call a seedling, you know. It's a tiny idea, a tiny prompt, which is like a starting point. It's a little bit of material, like how do you call that where you make pottery from?
Oh,
Clay.
you had the clay, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a bit of clay, and then you can see what can I do with this? Oh, I could form a little cup or a little bowl or maybe a plate or maybe an animal or what you find a lot of possibilities to form the clay. And a piece of music is made out of musical clay, you know? And if you understand the material, the basic material, clay, the musical clay, which is rhythm, pitch, maybe, so you have a horizontal level, which is the pitch, how the pitch goes up and down, and the time level and how long are the notes, which is called rhythm. And then you have tempo, and you have, of course, the vertical line, which is chords, harmony. And this is basically the clay of music. And the
Well,
rest is,
what I found really interesting about what you just said is, so I also grew up, well, learning in a piano in an environment that is very much about following the music. You have to be perfect. And the more notes there are, the better you are, right? So we almost measure success by complexity. And it took me a long time to get to the place that I can understand what you said, where you can actually make really beautiful music without having it being overly complicated.
yeah. I mean, there is of course also a place for virtuosos, you
Absolutely.
know, because there are people that have this gift of playing as fast as I mean,
Yeah.
as I would never be able to play, like Adriano Sanguinetto, for example. He is such a furious, fast harp player. Um, well, this is his gift, and this is his expression, and this is what he is best at. And he has this incredible groove while playing.
And energy, like
There are
you can't
there are
stop that
people,
man.
yeah, and then there are people that are incredibly virtuous with their levers here. Like think of Maeve Gilchrist.
Absolutely.
I adore what she is doing. And then she's smiling into the audience and she's singing with the most beautiful voice and she's doing incredible stuff with her levers up here. And I would never be able to do that because it's not my music, it's her music. So I don't have to do what she is doing because she is doing it already. I'm doing what I'm doing. And this is what I always encourage people to find out. May it be a student or even a professional, find your voice, your musical self. Find what is your special gift because everybody has a different gift in detail. And we don't need 1,000 Xavier de Mestres. We don't need them because we have one. That's
It's
completely enough.
true.
We don't need another Nadja Birkenstock. We have one. We
Mhm.
don't need anybody doubled and copied. We need more originality because this makes life more interesting. It's like biology.
Mhm.
If you clone people, how interesting is society going to be?
Mm,
Um, it's for some reason that the genetic pool has to mix, and if we don't mix, and then we will produce poorer genetic material, and we will have um, more sickner diseases.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
that we will have more damage in our health. Um, and it's the same in creativity, in any place, I would say, not only in music, it's the same in art, it's the same in science, it's the same in any human area that you can be creative. And I mean, it's almost in any case, you can be creative in any case in your life. Um, if we only copy other people, this might be a good way to learn something. It might be a good way to maybe put a skill to our treasure chest, to copy someone, to learn something about how somebody is doing something. And this is how my sheet music is meant. See how I do it. See, learn about my playing style, but don't copy it. Just, I mean, take it and transfer it and transform it and make it your own. Add it to what you already have and then create something new out of it. And that's what I think is the thing that humanity needs the most right now. We really need new ideas to deal with everything that we are facing right now, you know?
Yeah.
If
I
we
feel like we are
always,
not digging into our creative voices enough when we are all aspiring to be someone else, right? Like
yes,
you said, we don't need more of the same idea.
yes,
We benefit from more different
yes,
ideas. And what was so interesting for me when we're planning this interview, I asked you to make a video of yourself playing music, maybe with some improvisation. And you used a piece of music that you wrote and you improvised on it and you came up with two versions and you sent them to me. And you asked me what I think about them. And we're going to share both of these video with our audience. I want to hear your opinion because when I saw the video, I was like, wow, this is truly someone who lived by what they say, I improvise, right? You don't create something once that looks exactly the same the next time. And I thought that was so powerful that you more or less you're giving us the permission, right? To say, here's a little idea that I want you to take away with your siblings, right? And you said, mix and match, build it up, expand it, explore it. And that is such a powerful thing for us to be able to do. And you're giving us those tools in your teaching these days.
yes.
You focus on teaching improvisation quite a lot, and we're going to talk about that. So I
Yeah.
just want to point out that like I thought that was a very incredible experience when I opened up my email and I saw not one but two video and you asked, what do you think? And I listened to it and honestly, like you can hear the similar elements that you use in both. So the undertone is still the same, but they give off such different vibe and different feeling. And for the listener, that I'm pretty sure if I asked you to do it again, you'll probably come up with yet another new version. Probably you'll probably
In
not play
fact,
the
in,
same.
in fact, I have recorded, I think, 7
Oh
versions.
my goodness.
But 5 of them had some severe, well, spots that I wouldn't care in a live performance, because this is what improvisation brings with it, that sometimes you get lost for a tiny moment,
Yeah.
but when it's not recorded, it doesn't matter at all because nobody will remember it. But when it's on YouTube, then you watch it again
You
and again and again, and then now comes
now
the
I can
spot
see it.
where she lost. she lost her control. And so I had 7 versions and they were completely different. Yeah.
Mhm. So
Mm.
I'm gonna invite everyone to watch them and share your thought with us. Which one do you like better and why? And what would you maybe do with that same piece of music? And we're gonna have a link to that piece as well. So I want everyone to try that. And I'm gonna ask you now this question because I saw this on your website and I was really intrigued by it. So the and for those who doesn't know, Stephanie's website is in German, but you can use the translator and it will translate it quite beautifully actually into English. I was a little worried that the translator wouldn't do a good job, but it actually did a really decent job. So that's how I navigated your website. And there was a line in there that says, beauty and lightness paired with knowledge as the basic of well-being and connection. And I want to unpack it because there are so many ideas in there that I personally resonate with or think there's a place for us in this world these days. So let's start with the well-being and connection. And you already give us a beautiful story about someone taking your story and translating it into um, a writing, and you also accompanying his storytelling with your music. Why do you think well-being and connections are so important, especially for us in this day and age? Why do we want to dip into that?
I think that humans are social beings. We cannot live an isolated life. Not really. Um, we need other people to protect ourselves, to strive, to get inspiration, to have fun. you know, um, to learn, to develop, and to love, of course. I mean, we need connection with other beings. We need connection with other human beings, and I think we also need connection with animals. Everybody who has a pet knows exactly what I'm talking about. But even if you don't have a pet, just see what happens if you watch a little bird outside picking some corns, or if you watch a squirrel or something like that. I mean, there are animal haters, I know, but I think who plays the harp won't be an animal hater. So you probably will feel this connection. You will smile when you watch these animals. Maybe not when it's a lion or a tiger. Then maybe you would run. But usually we somehow feel that we are connected to each other and that we are connected to nature and we are connected to animals and maybe also connected to something that we cannot speak out because it's something spiritual. What the Jews say, Yahweh, the one who cannot be named. And in Harry Potter, it's the one whose name shouldn't be mentioned. Anyway, I think it's not him, but you know, if you get into feeling, if you go into your body sensation and into your also mind sensations, then you can feel this connection. And we need that. And we are living in a society that has too much separation, I would say. And this is why we got stuck in certain things. That people are greedy, they are looking for their own individual advantage, and they have lost the sense for their body. And the more we sit in front of this computer and live in a virtual world, the more we lose this body contact, and we lose this spiritual contact. And so this is something that I would say is really important because it is essential for human beings. It's our nature.
Mhm.
And beauty is something that can connect us, reconnect us.
Mhm.
And if you don't struggle, but it's easy and lightful, then it's joyful, and then you love to connect because it feels good.
And it reminds me of your story when you were invited to the church and you brought the harp and you were playing this music that really touched the people who were there, right? So even small act like this create a connection that perhaps you weren't even intending to, like, I'm pretty sure you didn't think that was gonna be the thing that touched people so deeply,
Oh,
right? And when you hear the feedback, that's when you realize there's something special. So I think moments like those really help us hopefully regain some faith in humanity and each other, if you will. Right.
and at the end of my seedlings video tutorials, I very often say, and then go and play the harp to make the world a better place. And I really mean that. And I mean, I really would like to encourage everybody who can play this. And I mean, anybody can do that. Do it because nobody will throw eggs or tomatoes at you if you do that. They will say, "Oh, this sounds so lovely." And just feel, listen to the sound, listen what you hear, and then you will react. You don't even have to think about it. I mean, if you know something about musical structures and so on, you can give it more forms, and it will sound even more intense, maybe even more complex. I wouldn't say complex. Complexity isn't the point. But of course, I know a lot about music theory, and the more I know, the more I'm able to support the sound. This is what I mean with knowledge, that you collect through experiments, you collect data, you collect information about how music functions. You find out that, oh, when I play these two together, two neighbor notes, there's tension in the sound. And if I leave out one string, there's less tension. It makes me smile, you know? And if I play this, there's tension again. Okay, so there are notes when I play them at the same time, they create tension, and other notes create harmony or relaxation. And I can feel that when I listen to it. I don't necessarily have to read a book about music theory. I can find out it by myself, and this is what I'm teaching. Listen to what happens and try to find out what functions how. What happens when you do this and what happens when you do that? Like when I have a beginner and they always ask me, where should I play and how should I hold my hand? And then I say, okay, try it. I mean, what happens if you play up here and if you use your fingernail? And it sounds like this. It's not the soft, smooth sound that you have when you play here, but it's also a possible sound that you can create on the harp. And there might be a situation where you want to have exactly that sound. And if you have explored the sound possibilities of the harp, then you can use them. And if you haven't explored them because you always follow just the teacher's advice to put up your thumbs nice and high, you know, and pull your hands into your palms, then you are functioning mechanically. You don't listen to what happens when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even feel how it feels. I mean, no, I'm risking to be banished
I
when I
don't think so.
say, how does it feel to hold your hands like this the whole day?
Mhm.
This is what we are taught to do if we watch all these beautiful teaching videos. But nobody would like to go around the whole day his hands like this. Nobody would like to do it. Why is that?
Mhm.
And I discovered it's because when you have a very high tension on your instrument, like on a classical pedal harp, and you want to make the strings really ring,
Mhm.
then you have to use a bit of power.
Force, yeah.
force, and you have to really pull on the string and you have to give it some energy. And what happens then is your finger will move towards your palm. But after that, you can relax it. You don't have to keep it there. It will go there by itself and then you can relax it. I mean, it doesn't sound well on my lever harp, but I know how to do it because I have tried a pedal harp once. So I know you have to really do that, and then your finger moves to that point in your palm, but then you can relax it again.
Mhm.
And if you really explore, if you feel if you feel your body, if you think, does this feel good for me? Like the elbow. Does it feel good? Or is it what what do I want to achieve by doing this? Why should I do that? Would I want to do that? If you don't have an answer to that, then don't do it. If you don't have an answer to something that doesn't feel good, and if you don't have an answer that makes sense to, even if it doesn't feel good, like holding up your elbows doesn't feel good for me, it makes sense when I'm playing up here, because otherwise I would have to uh,
Twist your
like,
arms in a funny way.
yes, and then this
Push your
isn't good for
wrist.
my fingers, so I
Yeah.
will keep up the elbow up here. But when I play down here, I don't keep up my elbow. Why should I do it? I mean, what for? I I didn't get an answer yet.
So, yeah, I am also going to say something that maybe would get me banished. I do find, and because I'm a harp learner myself, and I've been there, right? And I think I've seen people that are, they want the easy answer, right? Just tell me what I need to do and I'll just do it, and then life will be good. But understanding the why and doing those little experiment and ask yourself, how is this different than that? It's harder. It's actually work, right? If
Yeah.
you think about it. But I believe in, so in I'm a agilist. I'm agile practitioner, and we have this a principle we call it empirical process control, and basically it's exactly what you described. You do a tiny experiment, you listen to it or see it, you ask yourself, what did I see? Why would I do this again? How is this helpful? And then you take it, that lesson learned, and you move it forward. And again, it's hard work. So I think it's, when you talk about, these days, life is quite different when we're kind of just looking at the screen. And I think that's partly the byproduct of, us just looking at people performing on a screen or teaching you something in a screen. We don't understand their body, we don't understand their instrument, how that is different. So what I love about what you say is that not only do you want to be understanding of how your instrument behave because they teach us how to play, you're also reminding us that we need to connect with ourselves and ask what happened to us when we do certain things. And I'm also hearing it's not just about how your hand move, but what happens when you do play those couple of notes and how other living beings around you are reacting to it. Because I have heard a lot of people that says, as soon as I come to my harp, my dog or my cat will come and sit and enjoy it. And that's a connection point, right? And that's something I think it's very beautiful. It's simple, but it's truly beautiful. So I
Yes.
think what you just said there kind of summarized to me why it's so important for us to connect with our sound and be aware of how that sound can interact with the different beings around us. So thank you so much for sharing that. And no, I agree with you. There's a time and place for those hands to look different, but you need to understand the why.
Yes,
Very good
exactly.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about play because I'm a big believer in play. And I check out your work, and a lot of your work center around teaching people how to experiment. You talk about settling. So when you play with music, what does that look like? And how do you help others through your teachings to enjoy playing free with music?
Yeah. Play is also has to be divided into different sorts of games. We have games where you can win something. And this is not the sort of play that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the sort of playing that you meet when you watch small children in the sandbox. They don't have they don't have a goal. Once more, it's more this non-linear approach. I don't want to get anywhere. I want to be somewhere. It's not about getting somewhere else where I am not right now. It's about being where I am right now and seeing where time and energy takes me to. And so it's not with a purpose. I don't have a purpose. I don't want to reach something. I want to do something. That's basically the difference. And of course, sometimes I want to explore new ideas that I haven't played with, to get acquainted with ideas, like with a new polyrhythmic structure that I cannot do yet. And so I practice a bit with it, but I start playing around with it. And I don't have the goal to compose a piece. And I don't have the goal to practice something that afterwards I will repeat on a stage. I cannot repeat what I do. I can do something similar, but never the same. And and I get into this flow state. Some people call it the zone. It's this state where you lose control over time, over durance.
Yeah,
You don't know how.
I describe flow as when you forget to pee because you were
Yeah.
so involved in doing what
Yeah.
you're doing.
And it's about exploring. It's just about and having fun, of course, as well. Fun is very important, and I like to make musical jokes. Like if you have this, let's say I'm playing. Very unexpected. And I think, okay, the listener expects me to play this. And then I hold on for just a second, and then my knowledge comes in, and I know exactly what usually would come after this chord. Usually you expect this chord to come. And then I know which other chord I could take, which is a complete surprise, you know. And this is something like you could tell a joke by doing that. It's a surprise is always an element of humor. Um, and this is something that I really like to do, and especially together with other people. Playing music is very much more fun if you can communicate either with a listener, but even more funny is it to communicate with another musician or several other musicians.
Mhm.
And of course, these musicians shouldn't look into their sheet music because then we cannot communicate. People always think that I'm against reading sheet music. I am not. I mean, this is ridiculous because
Well,
I'm
you
not
have a
against.
lot of sheet musics,
Yeah,
so I don't think you're against sheet music.
and to be against reading sheet music would be the same as being against reading books. This is not the point. My point is that I'm against only reading sheet music.
Mhm.
Because when we talk, I mean, we don't have a script here, do we? We don't read anything of what we are talking about. I don't know about how you, but I don't read anything while I'm talking.
Well, if you're reading when you're talking, you're just doing a play or a movie out of a script. But if you
I
want to
mean,
have a real conversation,
exactly. I have some notes here, you know. I have of course, I have thought a bit about what is important to me, what would I like to talk about, and what I have scribbled down is it's about joy and fun and exploring. It's about responsibility. We haven't talked about that.
Mm.
Creativity, originality, playfulness, and expression. We have talked about all that, but I haven't read anything.
Mm.
I have scribbled it down before to just get some.
You have some sizzlings for our interview.
Yeah, exactly. So I know what is important. I have some prompts, but if I hadn't it all inside me, I couldn't talk about it.
Mhm.
I would have to read a text.
Mhm.
So and this is the difference between reading and playing with the things that you already have inside you. And I think everybody has something. Some people have more. Maybe I have a bit more than other people inside me because I have a huge knowledge. I mean, I have studied music, I have played music my whole life long, and this is 57 years now. So you cannot compare that with somebody who just started to play the harp 3 years ago. Of course, there's a difference. But even somebody who has only started 5 minutes ago, I can play with. This is what I usually do when I meet beginners. Sometimes I have a group of starters that only want to try if the harp is something for them. And what we are doing is the first thing is they find out what noises they can produce, and they inspire themselves by getting ideas from the others.
Mhm.
And then I tell them, okay, now try to get somehow in contact without using language, without using talking, only by creating sounds. You can create sounds with your voice, but it doesn't have to be words. Words are forbidden. No words, no semantic meanings, only fantasy syllables, fantasy language maybe, and sounds. And then they start, somebody is doing this, and somebody else is doing that, and then somebody is doing this, and the answer is this, something like that. And so they get into contact through sound without knowing anything about harp playing. It's possible. And this is
Mhm.
playfulness, and it's a lot of fun. And often people say, I don't know what I should do. And I say, you shouldn't do anything. You are allowed to do anything that comes to your mind. And you are also allowed to do nothing if nothing comes to your mind. This is also fine. Some people prefer to listen first. Yeah, and then get an idea, and maybe they come out later with some idea that they suddenly have. This is playing, and the more advanced you are, the more skills you have, the more knowledge you have, the more experience you are, the more sophisticated this conversation without words is going to be. But it can be fun even if a very skilled musician like me plays together with a beginner who is not so skilled. But if we have this sense of humor, we can have a lot of fun.
Mhm. I like that you mentioned to have that sense of humor. I think a lot of times I feel like I got weighed down by being too serious.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this question now. I am one of those people when you ask me to improvise, I'm like, I'm so scared. I'm going to do it wrong. What would be your one advice or suggestion for those who feel like I'm going to do the wrong thing in improvisation? How do we
Yeah.
get over that?
I would say, please do the wrong thing.
Do the wrong thing. I love it.
um, because there is no wrong thing. There is no wrong thing if you don't have a plan. Um, you can, if you dare, you can try it right now. Take your harp. You feel like doing it in front of the whole world. Oh, it's so
Oh my
scary.
goodness.
And
I should
now,
have told, I will tell the story later. I'm gonna turn on my original sound.
yeah,
But
and
I will
do
tell you a
do
story.
something. Maybe be very brave and say, I am doing the most ridiculous and silly thing that I can think of, and I will do it in a very extensive way. I will make it sound so silly that it becomes funny. Maybe
I
that
will
that
make it
might be
sound
an
so
approach. Or do
silly.
whatever you want.
I will make it sound so silly that it will be funny. Well, that's like me for the most part when I'm away from the harp. So let's see if I can bring it to the harp. Now, how
Exactly.
would you, where would I even begin if I have to pick a starting point? Does it matter?
Give it a try if it matters.
If it matters.
Find it out.
I think we just had a
What I
musical
mean?
conversation.
Yeah. And it even works online if we make it in a dialogue way.
Mhm.
Of course, when we meet in person, may it be two people or a group of people, it's even more exciting because music is the only language where several people can talk at the same time without
That is
disturbing
very
each
true.
other. Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Wow, I really enjoy this. Now, okay, here is the big question because I know you have a lot. There's a lot of things you do to teach people how to do a lot of the things that you just described today. So I would like you to tell us about it so that for those who are interested, they know how to sign up and what they can expect. So tell us about your different teaching platforms and the different offerings that you have so that we can all partake in this fun activity.
Yeah, for the international harp community, I am on the platform Ko-fi, which is similar to Patreon, maybe not as convenient as Patreon, as some people told me, but once you got used to it, then you find out how to deal with it. You can use bookmarks to sort all the videos that I provide, and I upload a new video tutorial every month, and I call these videos harp seedlings. And seedlings are these little tiny prompts, these elemental ideas that you can start from. And what we had just have done is basically something without any structure. The only structure we had was the seven notes on our harps. But the seedlings sometimes or very often provide a tiny structure. And it's easier to get into improvisation coming from a structure, especially when you are used to reading music, because reading music is very structured. And so you have, I think on the English, I have two Ko-fi channels, one in German and one in English. And on the one in English, you find, I think, 41 seedlings up to now. And it's growing every month, and there is one seedling for a single court harp and an extra seedling for double strung harp, which is building up on the single course but shows the specialities of only the double strung can is able to produce, like interleaving patterns and things like that. Um, and you have access to all these videos as long as you're a member on that platform. And if you would choose the higher tier, which is the sound bath tier, I think you also wanted to
Yes,
learn
I do
something
because I
about the
saw a
sound
duck.
bath. Yeah, I can tell you some more about that in a minute, but Then you have even another new video every month with a sound bath. And what a sound bath is, I will tell you about later. And I have the same in German, and the German channel is even older. So there I have already 70 or 71 seedlings, and they are called Harfenimpulse, which means in translation harp prompts. And I teach also the sound baths there, and also how to play with my pieces. So I introduce my pieces, but not in the way that you usually would find, that I show note by note how to play the piece, but I show how to deconstruct the pieces and how to reassemble them in the way that suits you best. So it's a different kind of teaching a piece. Um, yeah, that's the one thing that I offer. And on my for the international community, if you want to have some sheet music to learn about my playing style, not necessarily to play note by note the same piece, but to learn especially about my rhythmic playing style, which is quite special, I would say. Then you go to the English Ko-fi page, and there's a shop, and if some people find it a bit difficult to navigate it. So this is my page, and if you go to shop here, then you have up here you have
Menu.
categories,
Yeah.
and there you can browse what you are looking for. So if you are looking for double strung sheet music, then you go to double strung harp sheet music, and then you see what I offer for that.
Mhm.
Uh, and then you can just click on one, and then it opens up, and then you can buy, you can insert what you want to pay, at least 50, 14, 50 euro, and it's in euro because I'm in Europe. And then you can click on buy now, and then you have it. Um, so works the page.
Mhm.
Um, and of now I'm coming back. Yeah. um, And this, yeah, and what else? Then of course, I offer online classes, but up to now, all my online classes that are available already are in German, um, because I'm located in Germany, and I started during the pandemic working online, and I started in German because there have been already a lot of English. Yeah, courses on the market, and I thought there's something missing for the German-speaking community. But maybe I'm going to expand and going to offer as well English spoken classes in the future, if people are interested
Yeah,
in
leave us a comment if you want to see her courses in
yeah,
English.
exactly. So if people say, "Oh yes, I'm interested in this and that subject," and of course, I offer worldwide one-to-one lessons. So if anybody says, "Oh, I really want to learn more about improvisation, and I really want to find my personal approach, and I need some support in that," then feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to support you in one-to-one lessons. This is always possible, and I'm a night owl, so even if you live in the completely different time zone, then I will be awake in the middle of the night.
That's awesome. You also have something called a harp playground, isn't it? It's like an online
Yes,
gathering. Tell
yes,
us about that.
yes. Harp playground was an invention that I had, a word that came to my mind, and it basically describes that this is this is a course where the playfulness is in the center. Of course, you learn something there, but basically it's about playing. And I have online harp playgrounds only in German up to now, which is 1 hour playing together with me. So I give the ideas, and people can play around with it under my support. And they can ask questions and everything. And I have offline harp playgrounds, and this is, I would say, the core of my work. Even if it's not the part of my work which reaches out to most of the people, but it's the classes that the workshops that I offer in Germany and places where people come to, and there we have this experience of playing together without being yeah, it's integrative playing, I would say. Every level is welcome as far as they know that the strings are C and that the thumb is the first finger. This is, I mean, the basics. Of course, I want them to know the basics, and they usually they should know what a triad is and maybe what an inversion of a triad is. This is really helpful if you know that. But besides that, almost anybody can take part in these classes because it's about displaying. And I give the frame, I choose which frame, which game we are playing, and I decide spontaneously to change the frame if I see that the group needs something different. So I react to the group, and every harp playground is completely different, even if the prompts are the same, but the output of the people will be a completely different one because they are different people. So this is always very exciting, very much, very joyful because it's a completely new experience in being visible and hearable with your harp. Many people are frightened to show up in public, you know, and even
Mm.
a class with 10 or 12 people that you don't know is public. And they lose this anxiety because they feel how they get integrated, and how the group forms really a community. It's like we are getting one. It's how do you call this if a lot of fish are swimming into the
It's
same
there's
direction?
a school of fish coming together at you
Yeah,
kind of feeling, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Or
what I
birds.
love about what you described, it's almost like you're the teacher. You're like, class, let's go out. We're gonna go to the playground. This is what we're gonna do today, and you see what's gonna happen. It sounds really fun, actually.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, sometimes people fall off the the seesaw,
That's okay.
and
It
then
happens.
I have to comfort them a bit and rescue them. And sometimes people are dominant, like in a real playground with children. Some children dominate the game, and then I have to see that I give some room to the shyer people and to support them a little more and to hold back the others a bit. And so this is the moderator's task. Is I'm the leader, but not in the way of I tell you what to do, but more in the way that I see that everybody is doing fine. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay, sound bath, because that's another fun thing I saw. I love how playful you are, by the way. I'm just putting it out there for the rest of the world. So in your YouTube channel, I noticed that you have something called sound baths. Tell us about
Yeah.
it and how do we learn to do that?
Yeah, a sound bath is a special sort of prompt to get into improvisation, and it's very structured. It consists of it's chord structured basically. So you have to know what a chord is. A chord is consists of a root note and a third note and a fifth note, basically, if you only take a triad as a chord. And then you can form different fingering shapes to get something which has to do with a chord. So, like for instance, I show you my hands. If I want to form a C chord in my bass hand, I could choose the 158 fingering shape, and it's the root note and the fifth note and the root note again. This would be a chord shape, a fingering shape. And then I have different ways how to pick these fingers. So I could do one after the other upwards, or starting with the lowest and to do these two together, or doing something like this. So it's always the same shape, but a different picking pattern. And then I have the possibility to do it in different time signatures, like it would be a 4/4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and or 1 2 3 1 2 3, or 1 2 and 3 1 2 and 3. So you can have time signatures, and you can have rhythmic patterns, and you can have picking patterns, and you can have fingering shapes, and then you have another hand and you can use another shape with that hand and other picking patterns. And then very often I have another element which is crossing the left hand, the bass hand, above the right hand, and there is where the freedom lies. So like in one of my sound baths, you have a pattern like this, like. And you see, it's a chord shape here where I have the root note and the third note, and here the fifth note and the root note, and up here I have a single note, and I have a very interesting rhythmic pattern. It's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3. It's a 7/8 bar, and now I can move this single note upwards. And so on, you know. So this is the free part. I can move it wherever I want to move it, and explore what that makes with the music, you know. And then, of course, I can shift the whole structure to another place. So this was on E flat, and when I shifted one string higher, I'm on the F minor chord. And I could change the structure when I'm playing alone like this, you know. I could say, okay, I want to move up here quicker, so I don't want to go back down every time. I can stay longer up here. All possibilities to get into free play, but coming from a structure which gives you safety, which shows you, maybe it would be a good start for you, because I guess that you are quite a structured person.
I can be. But I resonate when you say safety. I do enjoy having a little safety net if I'm gonna go to the playground.
Yeah, okay. So, but anyway, so this is if you have the structure, then from there you can get wherever you want, and then you also have the opportunity to build a very strictly structured sound bath based on chord ideas, and by using inversions, you can build layers of the same idea, but you use inversions to put them on each other, and then you create a huge pile of chord notes. And if you are playing in a group, then the group can build up this carpet, this sound carpet, which I call sound bath, and then single persons can get out of the bath, and they can like surf on this, they can ride on their surfboards on top of the sound bath and improvise, or they could sing, because improvising for me is easiest to start with the voice, because our voice is connected directly to our sound imagination. So what we can sing is what we basically have in our musical intuition. And if you, then I would always recommend, if you like to sing. I mean, there are people that believe they are no singers and they don't have a voice. I don't believe that, but there are people like that. They have a trauma. Then for them it's maybe not a good idea to start with the voice. But anyway, I encourage everybody to sing, because singing is much easier. So if you play this. is really easy. I don't think about what I'm singing. I just let my voice ring. And my voice
Mm.
still is, I mean, I'm still having this cold. It's week 2 now. But, some I can just let my voice glide. And of course, when I sing, it sounds beautiful because I'm very experienced. When you start, you might find out at first, oh, I it didn't sound good. And then you stop singing. No, don't stop singing. Keep the note like. And then glide until you meet a note that says, "Oh, here."
Mm.
It's like if you are in the elevator and it gets
Get
stuck
up
in the
to
middle.
the right floor.
And
Keep
just
going.
wait until it goes higher, and then you reach the floor where you wanted to go. Maybe
Mm.
it takes a little time, but go through this process of finding something.
Mhm.
Nobody is being killed if you sing a note that doesn't match. I mean, it's not a war.
No, it's not. It's fun. And this
Yeah.
is in your coffee page. There's a sound bath here. Is that correct? That's how folks can learn about doing the sound bath.
Yes, if people register to my English newsletter, I have an English newsletter which, to be honest, I haven't written quite a while for quite a while, but I will start again, and they can register for my newsletter. I think I sent you the link as well,
Yes.
and then they get a 3-part tutorial for a very simple sound bath where I explain the principle of sound bath to enable them to create their own sound baths in case they have several people they want to play with. And you even can invite melody players like violin, flute players, whatever, to join in and improvise melodically on top of it. It's a challenge for many flute players
Yeah.
because they are used to play from sheet music. And and then you find these 3 video tutorials, and there's an extra tutorial for double strung players as well included. And if you like what you get, then you can register for the membership on Ko-fi, and then you find many more. And up to now, I have shown many sound baths from this book. We haven't been through all of them yet, and I have shown one which is not in this book, and I never run out of ideas. So it's going to go as long as I live. There will be new sound baths.
Fun. Okay, now for every person that I interview, if they publish sheet music, I always ask them to make some recommendation. And you already told us your sheet music are not like the normal ones, it's full of ideas. So maybe if you can give us an example, something you recommend, and maybe suggestions of how we can change it up or how we can use what you're teaching us to mix it up. I
Yeah.
would love our audience to try some of your music.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the favorite piece of people that are in my bubble is this one, and in English it's called Autumn Waltz. This is the German edition, but I have an English PDF, and this is the opening piece of one of the stories that this American storyteller told. Um, and if you look inside, then you see. Um, this is the score. And I have written Harp 1. So Harp 1 is the original piece. And I have written a second voice and a accompaniment voice um, to show how you could play an accompaniment, or how you could invent a second voice by going a third higher or something like that. And I have written out an improvised melody line for a flute or another solo instrument. And then you find the chord, the symbols here. And what you can do with that is, of course, you can learn the basic melody, which is the piece. I mean, this is what makes the piece, the melody. And the chord progression also is essential for this piece. So what you have to find out for yourself is what is essential in a piece? What is the essential element? And very often there is a melody which is very characteristic. And you can take this melody as the center, and then very often you have a chord progression which is characteristic. But sometimes you find a composition in one of my books where you have the same melody all the time, but the chord progression changes. Then the chord progression is not essential. And this is part of the possibility to improvise. But to do so, maybe it's helpful to have some knowledge about which chords fit to what. I mean, how do I find chords? You could experiment, of course. This is what I recommend to do first. But then there are also a couple of hints that you can use to have more a secure feeling of navigating through all the possibilities. And then, of course, you can go and say, oh, it's too difficult for me. How could I make it easier? What is not essential in this case is the shape in the bass. You also could play this piece like this. Playing only root notes in the bass. And nobody would say, oh, this is rubbish. It still sounds fine. It's easier. It's easier, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you can do whatever you want, whatever is possible for you. So make it your own. And so this is the autumn waltz, and the autumn waltz itself has several parts, and each part is an example for what else you could do with the same chord progression. So the piece is beautiful by itself. And you hear more or less parts of this piece as I have written it in these two videos. But you also hear things that are not in the sheet music, that
Yes.
that bring in new elements, other different elements, you know. And then you have books like this, Inselmusik. I have 2 volumes of that. This Inselmusik 1 and 2, and it's examples what to do if you only have 16 strings. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you only can play these pieces with a 16-string harp. Of course, you could also use a bigger harp and expand the bass. You can use other shapes, using the chord symbols, and find other shapes and other picking patterns to make it more higher, with a bigger tone range. This is always possible, and this way around is much easier. Very often I meet the problem that people say, I don't have a big harp, I only have 22 strings. Can I play your pieces? And I say, well, maybe not the way that I wrote them down, but if you know how to use chord symbols, then you can play any piece on any harp. Maybe not Debussy, maybe not Bach, but these easy listening pieces, or these folk-like pieces. It's more a bit like folk music. Simple pieces, which are not too complicated, can be played on any harp, more or less. Not all of them, but many of them. And so you can adapt and adjust not only my sheet music, any sheet music to your size of harp, to your level of playing, and to your taste. Last but not least.
Yes, very important.
So
Do you
you
have any
can,
suggestions for double strung players?
yeah, this one, I mean, it's not Christmas now, but this is one of my best-selling Christmas pieces,
Yes.
and it's a I only used the motive of Carol of the Bells, um, but basically it's also a collection of pattern ideas.
Oh,
So
fun.
if you need some, so and there are sound baths hidden inside
Oh, okay.
this
And this you can
arrangement.
play in a regular harp as well. Like this is not
Yes,
written for string singles, double string.
no, it's not for double strung.
Okay.
For double strung, I have written a couple of pieces for double strung, and you find them on my Ko-fi channel.
Okay.
And what is different on double strung, I just want to show that. So one of the pieces that I have written early is sounds sounds complicated, but in fact isn't. It's a double string. Um, yeah. And so on. And what I was doing in my right hand is I was only playing the same fifth all the time. I never moved my right hand until to that point. I will move it later in the piece, but it's just I wanted to have a double string when I was experimenting with what I call interleaving patterns, and that means that my hands are playing alternately.
Hmm.
Yeah, so left, right, left, right, left, right.
Hmm.
Yeah? So my hands are always playing into the gaps of the other hand. Sometimes alternately every note. Sometimes creating rhythms, and then put both hands into the same octave, and then you have these echo effects, and you have these open chords, these suspended chords, and all kinds of chords that you know from Datgard guitar playing. You know, this open tuning guitar playing that you have very often in Celtic music, for instance. They very often use open tuning. And the double strung harp sounds like an open tuning guitar. and and I thought, oh, how cool would it be if I had a harp where my fingers don't have collisions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hit each
And
other.
then I called a harp maker here in Germany and I told him about that idea, and he said, this is existing already. It's called a double strung harp. And then came, that was during the pandemic. And then came a scholarship from the GEMA, which is the German Copyright Society for Composers. And I'm a member of that. And they had a scholarship because Germany spent some money for the poor artists, you know. And it said you can compose pieces for an instrument which is uncommon. And if you need to buy this instrument, you can use the money to buy that instrument. And that was at the same time when I learned about this harp. And then I asked the harp maker, how much is this instrument? And it was exactly the amount that I got from the scholarship. So I ordered it, and my task was I had to write at least 3 pieces for that instrument, and that's what I did. And you find them on my Ko-fi page, and of course on my homepage as well. For European people, it's better to buy over my homepage because there you can have this bank transfer. And for overseas people and UK people, it's better to use my Ko-fi channel because there you can pay with credit card and PayPal. And I wouldn't say there's one that I recommend because I like them all, but the Kairos one and double string are easier to play once you understood the principle. And the Mystical Five is a polyrhythmic piece, which is a bit of a challenge. So I would say Mystical Five is more for the advanced. And I have recorded for, I think, for one of the pieces, I'm not quite sure for which one, I have recorded a little video where I introduce um, the idea, the basic idea that led to the piece, because I am not able to play exactly what I have written. It's just examples, like always.
Mm.
I write down examples of what I might play, but I never play exactly what I have written. It's important to understand the principle and not to get every detail that I have written, but to understand the principle and then play with it.
Fun. Okay, and you mentioned your newsletters. Tell us about the newsletter. Where do we sign up? I'm gonna put the link in the description, of course, but you have multiple newsletter. I think it would be helpful for you to explain the different ones to
Yeah, there
our
is one which is called Inspirations for Harp Players, and this is my English newsletter. And sorry to all my subscribers. I think the last time that I wrote something was before Christmas. It's going to be better. I had awfully lot to do. So this is the English one. So if you speak only English, then you should subscribe to that one. But if you can speak German, or if you are able to use the translation function, you can open my German newsletter also in a browser, and then you can translate it. I know that some Americans are doing that, and there I have a newsletter called Harfen Neuigkeiten, which translates as Harp News, and the you find it on my homepage when you go to the button newsletter. And the English newsletter you find as a sub page of the newsletter page when you click on that. And that's basically it. And you can unsubscribe anytime when it gets overwhelming, but or you can just delete it, but please never put it into the spam folder because this is not good.
how else can we stay in touch with your work?
Um, I think you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. But to be honest, I'm not that professional on Instagram and Facebook. I post every now and then, but not always in the same frequency. So sometimes the algorithm throws me out of the thread of people or of the feed. So it's safer to go to my newsletter.
Newsletter.
And of course, I have a YouTube channel, which contains quite a lot of videos, I think 360 or something like that. And it's a mixture out of music videos where I use photographs that my husband takes from our home in Sweden. We live part-time in Sweden, and he is an enthusiast with landscape photography. And so I use his photographs together with my improvised music. And sometimes I post a tiny tutorial-like video and sometimes a short just for an impression of the newest seedling or whatever. So it's very mixed content on that, and it's in German and in English. So, but on YouTube that's not a problem because you always can choose the subtitle function, and then you can get the English subtitles.
Yeah, and it is a good way for us to, if you're curious about Stephanie's work, it's a really good place
Yes,
to get a good sample of the
yes,
different things that
yes,
you do.
yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I had a lot of fun exploring your work and learning about your approach to what you do right now as a musician. And I want to thank you for encouraging the harp community to enjoy free play and just being with ourselves and the instrument. That is such a important message for a lot of us, especially I think, as adult harp learner, I speak for myself. I'm not here to compete with other people. I'm not here to be the next Mozart. I just want to have fun. And I
Yeah,
think you're opening
exactly.
that gateway for us. So thank you so much for taking the time and talk to us today.
And thank you for the great preparation and thanks for all your work that you are doing for the harp world because I think sometimes we forget about all the background work that enables you to do these interviews. You read my homepage, obviously. I was really pleased to see that, and you really are thoughtful in finding questions that bring out the most important ideas that somebody wants to share with the world. And thanks for that, and thanks for providing this YouTube channel. And yeah, and whenever you think it's time to talk a bit more about playfulness, about the double strung L, whatever, then I'm happy to come back and go on
I
talking with
would
you. It
love
is
to do that. And we have
pure
talked
joy.
about this for the audience. We have kind of go like, we could be here talking for hours because both of us are very passionate about some
Yeah.
of the same things. And we decided that for this interview, we're going to focus on really introducing your work. But I would love to have you back to take a deeper dive. And meanwhile, if you cannot wait for that conversation to come out, check out a coffee page. There's a lot of really interesting material in there already. Like you said, 40 some videos on the English one, 70 some on the Siddlings on the German one, and there's more to explore. So
Yeah.
I look forward to talking to you again.
And there's a personal support. So in case
Yes.
anything seems not to work, it's always a possibility to send me a message. And I really jump in, and I don't have a team. I'm only me. So I answer to every email that is sent to me, and I answer to every message that is sent to me on Ko-fi or on Facebook. So don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm happy to meet people. I'm happy to support people. It's part of my purpose, maybe if you want to call it purpose. It's part of something that I love to do in life, to support other people, to communicate with other people through music, but not only through music, to connect with people and to make the world a better place.
You are,
Contribute to
and
peace.
I really see that in our interaction, and not to suggest that everyone is gonna message you at the same time. I think that could be
No,
overwhelming. However, I think if you are really interested in exploring how to free yourself from the sheet music, how to have fun, Stephanie might be the person for you to talk to. So,
yeah, maybe.
yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a great joy for me.